From the campus of the Ignite Institute at the Roebling Innovation Center in Erlanger, Kentucky, Ignite Student Media presents the first annual Ignite Institute Political Forum.
Hello, I'm Mackenzie Cook, and I'm a junior in the Computer Science College here at Ignite Institute. I want to start off by thanking both Representative Wheatley and Mr. Davis for being here today, as well as the other students who are participating. Representative Wheatley is from District 65's House, and he is fighting for pension stability and stands with public school teachers and educators. Mr. Davis has a master's degree in rehabilitation counseling and wants to face the opioid epidemic in District 65 with preventative measures and practical solutions. Representative Wheatley, do you have any opening remarks?
I do. And if you're ready, I will go. Thank you for the introduction. I am Representative Buddy Wheatley. I represent the 65th District, which is most of Covington, all of Ludlow, most of Park Hills, all of Bromley, and a little bit of Taylor Mill. I am a retired firefighter, retired 20 years with the City of Covington, retired as the fire chief. I went on to law school to get my law degree with the intention of practicing labor law. I do attorney work for firefighters, so I have pretty much stayed in the public sector since my being a firefighter, which started in 1988. I'm a lifelong resident of the district, and I obviously have worked in the district since it does include the City of Covington. I am a proud graduate of Ludlow High School, which is also in the district, and I feel like I have all of the tools that makes for a responsible, working both sides of the aisle, intelligent state representative. And I use my skills, my tools, to be the best representative so I can represent all of the district all of the time. I want to congratulate the Ignite Institute and its staff for taking such an active part in democracy. When we have civic engagement from students and in this forum, we are building a better democracy. Soon, you students here will be of age to register to vote. Voting as a young person can be intimidating because young people often feel overwhelmed by the voting process, but you are learning the process, and that'll help bring comfort when you become voters. And when young people vote, you speak for a generation of voters whose voice is often overshadowed by the talking heads on TV and the social media trolls and the purveyors of mistruths on the internet. We need people like you. We need students like you to become active in democracy. We need to make the registration process very simple and the voting process very simple so that all citizens of age from 18 to 118 feel comfortable and welcomed at the voting booth. I think we'll have a civil discussion today, especially since my opponent is not here, but I look forward to doing that. From the previous speakers, you might have gathered that we have a rather civil Northern Kentucky caucus where we do talk quite a bit. I am that type of legislator where I work across the aisle, and I think it's effective for the people. It helps me represent all of the people all of the time. So thank you.
Hi, I'm candidate Jay Davis, and I'm running for House District 65 State Representative. I attended the University of Kentucky for undergrad, where I played football under Rich Brooks from 2004 to 2006. From there, I stayed at the university and earned my master's degree in rehabilitation counseling. And shortly thereafter, I was offered a job with the Commonwealth where I worked as a rehabilitation counselor for 3 years in Lexington. In that role, I was responsible for helping individuals who are addicted to opioids and methamphetamines and alcohol get back on their feet to become gainfully employed. And I had a great success rate while I was there. After doing that for 2.5, 3 years, I decided to attend law school. So I applied all throughout the nation and was accepted at the University of San Francisco, where I completed my law degree in 2013. Immediately thereafter, I was elected to be a union rep for a local school district where I represented teachers and filed grievances on their behalf. My work was not finished there, and I was appointed to be the Executive Director of Small Business Development and Civil Rights for the Kentucky Transportation Cabinet in 2016. In my time working for the Cabinet, I worked to ensure that small businesses had a fair opportunity to participate in federally funded projects throughout the state. In my short time there, we almost doubled the number of dollars that were spent with small businesses in between the years of 2016 and 2019. After working there for 3.5 years, I decided to take my talent and try to help my local community, and I put my name in the race for House District 65 State Representative. And so I'm doing that. I'm campaigning hard. A lot of you will see me and a couple of volunteers out in your neighborhoods, knocking doors and trying to get to know the residents and hear their concerns. I also have a small law practice where I work civil rights, employment, and some personal injury cases. I'm for the people. I am for our local community, and it is my goal, it is my campaign slogan to bridge the gap to safer communities and more economic opportunities in our region. And with your help and with my experience, Northern Kentucky, we can do it. We can do it together. It's going to take a concerted effort, but I'm sure that we can get the job done. So thank you for having me, and hopefully I can win your vote this November 3rd.
Good afternoon, Representative Wheatley. My name is Caitlin. I'm in the Computer Science College.
Hi, Caitlin.
This morning I actually had surgery, and I came straight from surgery out here.
That's dedication. That's dedication.
My question for you is, statistics show that about 22% or 1.2 million people in Kentucky are dependent on Medicaid. How will you protect the future of an effective Medicaid program in Kentucky?
Well, thank you for that question, Caitlin, and it's very important and something I didn't hope to talk about today. You know, the Medicaid program was expanded through the Affordable Care Act, and Kentucky took advantage of that expansion and the availability of federal funds to expand Medicaid for an additional 400,000 needy moms, dads, grandmas, kids, and I am in complete support of expanding the Medicaid availability to all of our citizens. What has happened is that we have, through a previous administration, there was an attempt to do away with the expansion of Medicaid. And my party, the Democrats and our new governor, we were against that. And we elected a new governor who has reinstated the Connect program, which also through the court system, we were able to stave off to keep the Medicaid, all the 300,000 people from being removed from Medicaid insurance. And we are now looking to expand it through awareness programs. And another reason that there are fewer people, there are not 400,000, there's 300,000 people not going to be on Medicaid if the previous governor was successful with his desire to move them off the Medicaid rolls, is because people have, through the program, what's supposed to happen is Medicaid is for people who need it until they get their own insurance. And through some successes in the employment range, some people were able to move off of Medicaid, which is what was intended. But as you know, through this pandemic, we've had a tremendous amount of people lose their medical insurance, and we want them to know And we think the Connect program, the Connect portal online will help them understand that they can and they are eligible for Medicaid again, and I hope they take advantage of that, and I support that 100%. One important factor about Medicaid, Medicaid is an 80-20 match from federal funds to state funds. Starting this year, we are meeting the full match. So we have come to the budget part of the Medicaid expansion where we can handle it. And the funds that are expended on Medicaid and health care in the state of Kentucky stay in Kentucky. And they lead to healthier economies, especially in areas where health care is the #1 employer. Thank you, Caitlin.
Thank you.
So healthcare is a major issue in the United States. People are dependent upon Medicaid, and we do need Medicaid. We are a great nation. We should be a nation that figures out a way to make sure that individuals have health care. I think that health care is very important, especially for young adults, the youth, and even the elderly. This question is saying that 22% of people in America depend on Medicaid. And we need to continue to make sure that these people are taken care of. But we also need to make sure that individuals are doing their part to advance our system. And what I mean by that is that having Americans in good working jobs where they receive health care benefits, having Americans that are making decent wages, working in the industries in northern Kentucky will help relieve some of the pressure that Medicaid puts on our economy. So I think it's a twofold answer. Number one, yes, it's necessary. But number two, we also need to make sure that Americans are doing their part to help relieve the pressure that some of this Medicaid and Medicare is putting on our economy. And that comes by producing good paying jobs. Northern Kentucky is flourishing. We have Amazon Air coming to this area in the next couple of years. We have DHL that has a headquarters up here. We have Wayfair that just put a warehouse in Northern Kentucky. We have one of the largest logistics industries in the United States. We need to ensure that our local talent is filling those jobs and that those jobs are paying them a decent wage so that they can have proper health care. And I have the experience to do that. In my time with the Kentucky Transportation Cabinet, I built jobs that were directly impacted our local economy. I partnered with Gateway Community College to create a program in transportation logistics, and that program was free to individuals. And it allowed people to get trained so that they could fill jobs at the airport and at some of the companies I mentioned before. So Medicaid is good, but there has to be a balance there with employers also providing good health care benefits to their workers.
Hello, my name is Abram Smith. This is for my 9th grade government class. My question is, the CNBC states that in 2019 alone, there were more than 1,000 deaths in police custody, with an unequal amount for black people. They also found that in 99% of cases, the police officers were not charged for what they've done. What steps do you believe must be taken in order to prevent this from happening in the future?
Thank you, Abram, for that question. And it's very important that we address this issue. This is the issue of racial injustice, criminal justice reform, and it's very discouraging to see and hear the statistic that you cited from CNBC. And I feel very deeply that we need to address this issue. As many of you are probably aware, the Breonna Taylor story, which is a Louisville, Kentucky-based story, is very much a part of what criminal justice reform is going to look like in the upcoming session. Of course, that involved a no-knock warrant that was, it simply went terrible, it went wrong, and we lost an innocent life. And for as much good and as I come from the public sector and I worked with police officers for 20 years and I saw the incredible difficult work that they have. We know that there are things that just aren't right. We've been able to see this from the statistics you are quoting and the disparity that happens just through the videos that are showing up, through body cams and through people who have video capability on their phones. We see it, it's disturbing, and something must be done. Now, I have joined sponsorship of Representative Atticus Scott's Breonna's Law. I was one of the 11 original sponsors for it. And not everything in that law is perfect. It's a pre-filed piece of legislation. There's lots of work that needs to be done with that legislation to make it better. And I'm the type of legislator who wants to reach out to all the important stakeholders and say, let's make this law as good as we can make it. And I have done that through the Kentucky Fraternal Order of Police, and I will continue to make criminal justice an important part of what we do this next session. Thank you. Thank you, Abrams.
Thank you very much.
Well, I'm glad you asked that question. As an attorney, especially a civil rights attorney, I've represented a lot of clients who have been in this situation. And as a black man growing up in the inner city, I've personally experienced situations of this nature. There's a couple of things that need to be done to ensure that this doesn't happen in the future. I think number one is the training of our police officers. We need to make sure that our police officers are aware of any natural bias that they may have against people of color and train them in how to deal with people who may be different than them. I think that's one thing that we can do. I think another thing that we can do is make sure that there are laws and regulations in place so that when these inmates are kept, that they're kept in safe condition. So just a review of those laws and regulations and procedures. I tell people this all the time. Regardless of what profession that you are in, there's a standard of accountability. I played for a state championship basketball team when I was in high school, and the reason that we were successful was because not only were we accountable to our coaches, but we were held accountable by other teammates. And what that did for us is it created a culture of winning where everyone wanted to do right. So what did that look like? It looked like this. If one of my teammates wasn't doing what they were supposed to do, I would get them in line. I would try to help guide them in the right direction before my coach even got a chance to. Because I knew that if my coach said something, we were all likely going to be running for long periods of time, and no one wants to do that. So I think that same level of accountability needs to be in every profession, just not in policing. But it definitely needs to happen in policing because people's lives are at risk. And so accountability, look at the regulations, and then more training for our officers will help those situations be handled in a more efficient and effective manner.
Hello, Representative Wheatley.
Hi.
I'm Keaton Holloway, a freshman at the Ignite Institute. My question is, what part does the media play in an election? And do you believe you are able to effectively communicate your goals and values through the use of social media, even with the amount of fake news surrounding an election?
Keith, what a great question. Because the media and social media and the internet has changed things. You know, I'm a bit of a history buff, and I'm also, I went to college to become a journalist. So I was part of the media right out of college, and my things have changed since the mid-1980s. I'm very concerned about the things that's happening in the media has also happened around the country, where there seems to be one side or the other side. And objective media is more of a challenge. And in social media, of course, there's very little rules. There's this this desire to have free expression and not to have very many rules through social media, and that allows for what I think is the spread of lots of fake news. And the thing is, it's not even news if it's fake. So I don't even really like to use that term. You know, through my studies and what I know about history, it was about 100 years ago when yellow journalism was a major problem in the country. We used to have daily newspapers, many of them in the northern Kentucky, Cincinnati area, dozens of them in the New York City area, and they tried to outdo each other with more sensational stories, more sensational, not backed up by facts. And finally, the people said, look, we want something that is backed up by facts, backed up by information that's credible, that we can understand. And a whole new standard developed in journalism. And I'm really hoping that that's what happens with this, Keith. I'm hoping that we all become better educated. We recognize that there's a lot of misinformation out there. And these are some of the growing pains, you can say, of having the internet and having social media. It took a while. It took a while with TV. It took a while with telephones and cell phones. And I think we're in some growing pains here, but people are recognizing that, look, we have a lot more that keeps us together than pulls us apart. Let's work on the stuff that keeps us together. And one of those things is having objective journalism and verifiable, credible facts when we're doing our research on the internet.
That's a great question. So to start, just yesterday, I spent some time researching the cost and the policies and procedures of posting election or candidate type information on Facebook and Instagram. And they've made it very difficult to do that. There's a whole process that you have to go to confirm that you're actually a candidate and that you actually are who you say you are. So on one side, that's good, because it shows that they're trying to make an attempt to properly vet individuals to make sure that they are who they say they are. But on the other hand, it could be very difficult, especially for candidates who are running as I am running, where I haven't taken any large sums of money from any organization, and I don't have a large team of individuals volunteering with because it's another step or a roadblock to keeping me from getting my name out there to the people. So I see both sides of the argument. I definitely think that it's necessary, but I also think that we could cut down a little bit of the red tape that keeps candidates like myself, from getting their name out there, because that's what political races are supposed to be about. They're not supposed to be about who has the most money to hire the most people to get through all of the red tape. They're supposed to be about, do I believe that this candidate has the experience? Does he have the leadership qualities Does he have the type of accountability that I want, that I need to lead this region in the right direction? And that's who I am, and that's who I will be. But I have to be able to get my name and my message out to the people. And so I do see it as somewhat of a limitation.
Thank you.
Hi, Representative Wheatley. I'm Brian Kelly, a freshman at the Ignite Institute.
Okay, Brian.
With trust in social media and lots of news companies declining because of lots of fake news, a ton of organizations have had a lot of workers helping sift through all this information to try to figure out what's fake and what's not and help monitor it. And so, in your opinion, do you believe that fake news is still prevalent in the U.S.? And if so, how do you think we can solve this issue?
Well, thank you. Brian, right? And it's a little bit goes into what we talked about in the previous question. How do we solve it? So what is credible? How do we know? Do we want to call something fake news, or do we want to call it, the news slanted in one way or the other? I can start talking about one side or the other, especially one side that I think help bring about the mass distribution of news that wasn't quite so verifiable. But that's not fair either, because as soon as we do that, we're sort of pointing fingers. And what we really need to do is point at the things that are really work, and that we can have, determine what's a fact and what's not. And I took a class in college, basically, logic, and we started the class by saying, okay, what is truth? What is the fact? And the more people that we can come together and agree on something and that's verifiable will help verify facts. And the more people begin to realize, just like you're asking, that there are lots of untrue, unverifiable pieces of information out there, that there's no need to jump to conclusions, there's no need to take it as a fact, verify it. I'll even point to something President Ronald Reagan said during the talks related to the disarmament of nuclear weapons, which was trust but verify. And I would almost go the other way and say with facts that you're learning about or seeing, and opinions that you're seeing on, not opinions, but stories that are treated as news that you see on the internet or through social media, verify first, and then you might be able to trust it a little bit.
Do I believe fake news is real? I think that the media has become more about being first than it has about being right and accurate. Because of social media, because we all walk around with computers in our pockets, basically, the person that puts out news first is usually rewarded because they are the most popular news stream or the most popular media outlet available. And so I think that has really hurt journalism. Journalism is a field that was born on people producing accurate information that was thoughtful and provoked people to think about situations and not just be right, and not just be first, excuse me. So I do think that we need to get back to that. I think that journalists have a duty to make sure that the information that they are producing is factual and right. And as a result of that, I believe that the American people will be better informed to make decisions on their own and not necessarily be swayed by any propaganda. So do I believe that fake news is out there? I do. Do I believe that the problem can be resolved and fixed? I also do, because I believe in America, and I believe that America can get it right.
Thank you.
Hello, Representative Wheatley. My name is Bianca, and I am from the Computer Science College.
Bianca? Hi.
My question is, since the people of Kentucky have increased the amount of carbon dioxide in the last carbon dioxide in the air by 40% since the late 1700s, and with heat-trapping greenhouse gases increasing, it affects Kentucky by which evaporation increases as the atmosphere warms, which increases humidity and affects the average of rainfall in certain areas. How would you help decrease the amount of carbon dioxide in the air, and what could us citizens do to help?
Well, two-part question. Thanks, Bianca. And I think the first part was how to decrease carbon dioxide in the air because of its detrimental effects, and what can the common citizens do to help facilitate that decrease. I think some of the information that you were alluding to, you were pointing out in your question is, who or how do we stop or how do we do something about the amount of carbon dioxide in the air? And as we mostly know, it's through burning of fossil fuels, which really happens through the heat that we have coming into our homes and our cars. Now, there's other ways that we burn fossil fuels through industrial production and our mass transit, our airline travel, and all of them have gotten somewhat better through standards that the government has set. The Environmental Protection Agency was created in 1973, and standards were set, and we saw, and I'm of the age when I remember that you would walk out the door, and I lived next to DeVue Park, and unfortunately, it was full of trash, and not just a little bit. That's when the environmental movement really started taking off, and that gets into with the EPA, and we used to have more of a state EPA because the federal government created the program, and then the state came along and have their own standards, and that's what we need in Kentucky and need to continue in Kentucky. So what can individuals do? For one, they could be informed as much as you are, Bianca, and they will be able to be intelligent about their voting choices when they go to the voting booth, and they might say, well, I know this candidate is more in support of a cleaner, safer environment than this candidate is. And there are some other good reasons why some people think, well, we don't need to do away with our coal plants and do away with our cars right away. It's too much effect on the economy. And there's a balance there. It's like, well, how do we do away with a certain amount that transitions us into cleaner air, cleaner water? And that's the kind of approach I'm for, but we definitely need to continue on that path.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Kobe Price. I'm a ninth grader in the Computer Science College.
Kobe?
Yes. I was wondering, with many studies showing that over 11% of Kentucky's adults don't have health care, what is your plan on helping this issue?
Well, thanks, Kobe, and we had talked a little bit about that earlier. Access to health and health care is extremely important in Kentucky because many of you may know or may not know, Kentucky ranks so poorly in most of the health care rankings. We're like last in cancer deaths, last in diabetes, last in heart disease, and last is not a good place you want to be. And that's in the United States of America, which is only 17th in the world of health care as far as our ranking in our general health care. So with 11% of our citizens, and that's the number I used to be a little bit lower than that, but I'll take that number as something to work off of. That's concerning because we found out if you don't have health care, you don't use the health care system. You don't go to the doctor. You don't do the preventative things that are necessary to help prevent those things like cancer and heart disease and diabetes. And we need to have that kind of preventative care, which is really provided mostly through our nurses and our nurse educators. But for me, access to health care would mean making Medicaid and Medicare more accessible to those who are in need. And as much as I'd like to keep the choice of the people who already have their health care who can keep it. We want people who don't have health care to know that they can get it, because information and availability is important, to know that it's available to them, and that we have the commitment in their government to say, we're going to keep it available to you because it's that important. It's that important. It helps keep our rural hospitals open when we have our medical insurance available to more people, and it keeps us healthier. And healthier is happier. We need a healthy, happy Kentucky, and that will lead to a better economy too. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Carson, and I'm a 9th grader here at Ignite.
Carson?
And my question is, since the George Floyd incident in May, many have come out and openly expressed their support for defunding or abolishing the police. This would result in number cuts, pay cuts, and training cuts for the police. And are you in support of defunding or abolishing the police?
Not at all. Not at all for defunding or abolishing the police. I am in support of revisiting the way things are done. I went to law school to be a public sector negotiator, primarily through the law, for collective bargaining. And in that, I realized and have had a lot of experience with attorneys who negotiate labor contracts, basically working conditions for police and fire, transit workers. That's what I've done for the last 10 years. And I recognize the importance of the officers, the firefighters, the bus drivers to have a say in how they do things. And they want more say. They want to say, we need to change our training. We need to have more safety on the streets. And it's been it's a complicated onion, as they say, and you have to peel back many layers to find out what we need to do to never have a George Floyd situation come up again, never have a Breonna Taylor situation come up again. There's lots of reform being discussed out there. As I said, Breonna's Law, which includes the mandatory wearing of the body cams, which includes the elimination of no-knock warrants. Those are the types of criminal justice reform I'm for. But as far as defunding the police or abolishing the police, I'm not at all for that. Now, there is sometimes defunding the police can become an overused term. People who use that term originally was more like their idea was reimagining the way that criminal justice is done. And it can be overused in a certain way. It's certainly gotten to be one of those phrases that is used in the wrong way, in my opinion. I think most of the people who have talked about defunding the police are talking about, let's do something different, because what's been happening through what we've seen has not worked, and it was excruciating to watch that George Floyd video, and I hope that we never see anything like that again, and we do it through a smart, measured manners through reimagining how our police work. All right, thank you, sir.
The first question here is, am I in favor of defunding the police? And my answer to that is no. The police have a difficult job. They go out and they serve our communities every day, and they put their lives on the line. So what I think needs to happen is we need funding to help these police be more aware of mental health crises that individuals may be having. We need to help them be better trained on how to deal with those mental health crises. We need to teach them about implicit bias and how they may view someone who's different than them. We need to have requirements where they are working and volunteering in the communities that they serve, so that they become familiar with the individuals that they're policing. So in order to do that, the last thing that we need to do is to defund them. They actually probably need more training and more support to help them do the dangerous job that they are doing. I think the second part of that question is how that we can make policing safer, and I've answered that. I think that they need more training. I think they need more help, and I think that the training that they need is going to require some change in regulation and policy. And as you know, my opponent is the legal counsel, and he represents and he's supported by the police union. The union is going to be highly against any type of change whatsoever. So I, myself, I'm not backed by big money. I'm backed by the people from the community that have donated to my campaign because they believe in me and they believe together that we can bridge the gap to overcome these issues. So.
Thank you, sir. I get to answer this question as long as I want to because this is the timekeeper.
Hello, Representative Wheatley. My name is Drew Dorn, and I am currently...
Drew?
Yes.
Okay.
And I'm currently a sophomore here at the Ignite Institute in the Computer Science College. My question for you is that the Affordable Care Act's future continues to be uncertain as the law's constitutionality will once again be considered by the United States Supreme Court in California versus Texas. Oral argument is scheduled for Tuesday, November 10th of this year. If the Affordable Care Act is struck down, what will your plan be to make sure all Kentuckians have access to affordable health care?
Drew, what a great question, and what a way to bring it back to a state. Because we do all have to realize when a federal law is passed, typically the federal law, as the ACA, the Affordable Care Act did, it allowed states to do more things with the law. But if we take away that federal law, we take away the state's ability to do what they were doing. So then the state, as what we can do in Kentucky, is pass its own laws related to the Affordable Care Act that help provide the benefits that the Affordable Care Act has provided. So we have currently within we have something called pre-filed legislation, and there's going to be pre-filed legislation related to pre-existing conditions that if the Affordable Care Act is struck down, we still will honor that through the Medicaid work in the state of Kentucky. We also have some price control measures related to certain medications, and these are bills that have been brought up in the past. In other words, they were brought up, but they didn't get a hearing through the committee. They didn't go through the House and Senate through the process, but there has been legislation that has been about that will protect those measures that are in the Affordable Care Act. I don't think that they are going to strike it down completely. I think that there will be many parts of the Affordable Care Act that will still be in place if they come to the decision that it's no longer pertinent related to the law that was passed about 2 years ago that said that it's no longer a mandate that you have to buy medical insurance through the Affordable Care Act. So I have some faith that way. I am an attorney, and I have seen many things happen through court decisions over the years as to what people said was going to happen if the court decides a certain way, and it really doesn't happen. And, you know, people are right to have concerns. They're correct to have their opinions, and they want to express them. But I don't think we're going to quite have the calamity that some are suggesting if there is a negative decision related to the Affordable Care Act. And I have faith in our federal legislators, in our in what's going to happen, that we will be able to take care of the important things that are in the Affordable Care Act. And if they don't, we certainly will work, and I will work in the state of Kentucky to make sure those measures are protected here in Kentucky.
So I have direct experience working in Frankfort, Kentucky, working with legislators to pass laws, working within the government system. I worked for the Kentucky Transportation Cabinet, and in that role, I was responsible for managing budgets. I was responsible for watching federal spending and ensuring that federal spending was equitable for all people. And when elected, I will do the same here. It starts with someone who has the experience that's right for the job. And that is me in this instance. The Affordable Care Act is a concern, especially for those with pre-existing conditions. I totally understand that. And we want you to have access to health care that you can afford and that is not unreasonable. But a lot of making sure that that happens starts and ends in Frankfort. And right now, as you know, Kentucky is in what's called a super majority. The House and the Senate are dominated by the party that I represent. My opponent has been unwilling and unable to negotiate with the majority. And that's going to be the biggest difference, is I have the experience and I have the negotiation skills necessary to work with the party in the majority to get things done. And my opponent has not shown the willingness or the ability to do that. So if we want to make sure individuals get health care, if we want to make sure that individuals are taken care of, I will do that. And I will make sure it happens in Frankfort. Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Representative.
Representative Wheatley, bouncing off of what you said about the Affordable Care Act for people with pre-existing conditions, what specifically are you planning to do if the Affordable Care Act gets striked down?
Well, just that. There is a bill that I will co-sponsor. I co-sponsored it last session that would protect pre-existing conditions. So you won't be able to, that insurance companies cannot kick you off your insurance if there is a pre-existing condition. We want to provide that in law clearly so that it is there in case there is that interpretation that all the aspects of the Affordable Care Act, or that, particularly the one you're talking about, is no longer effective through the federal law. So that is one. Another important protection under the Affordable Care Act is being able to be on your parents' insurance until you're 26 years old. Now, that has not been previously filed as a piece of legislation, but you bringing it up and other concerned Kentuckians talking about this and recognizing, you have to realize the Affordable Care Act, which was commonly called Obamacare for a long time, even in the state of Kentucky, it was passed in 2010. And by the 2012, 13, 14, 15 era, when we were all a little bit younger, somebody asked, do you like the Affordable Care Act or do you like the Obamacare? And they, by a wide margin, Kentuckians said no, they don't like Obamacare. But then when they asked, do you like these aspects of this law, they said, yes, we love that. Well, it was the same thing. This gets into the nomenclature of certain things. So the individual items that are in the Affordable Care Act that are probably the two most important, I think will have a good chance of getting attention if there is the determination that the current law, the federal law, is unconstitutional in the effect of the court's decision. And sometimes courts can order these things, will be that no part of that law is constitutional and you have to start from scratch. So as the state of Kentucky, there will be some real attention to these very important protections that are under the Affordable Care Act.
As the Executive Director for Civil Rights, I work to ensure that individuals will not discriminate against based on race, color, national origin, sex, disability, or sexual orientation. I think that America has rules and laws in place to keep individuals from being discriminated against based on those protected classes. And when I think about pre-existing conditions, I almost feel as if that falls directly in line with the groundwork that has been in place by Title VI and Title VII of the Civil Rights Act. And so I understand that individuals who have pre-existing conditions are concerned about their health care and their ability to be served by the doctors of their choice. And again, my experience working with the laws directly in these areas and in these fields has prepared me to make sure that that happens. I have done it for the last 3.5 years, working for the Commonwealth, and I will continue to do it when elected. My opponent doesn't have that experience. He is backed by big companies and big unions who don't want to pay their portion when it comes to pre-existing conditions and individuals that work for those organizations and companies. But they need to pay their portion. They have come here, and a lot of them have thrived because of our local economy, because of our geographical location, because of the roads that we have in place. So I think they have to take a part in the responsibility of taking care of their workers and helping those who do have those type of conditions. So when elected, I will continue to make sure that happens, and I have the experience doing it in Frankfurt.
Great, thank you.
Hello, Representative Wheatley. I'm Adam Young. I am a freshman in the Computer Science College.
Hey, Adam.
Over the summer, there have been hundreds of protests, all centered around police reform. Do you think police reform would be a positive or negative change to introduce into the police system? And do you think we should continue on with doing it?
Do I think we should continue on with what?
With police reform.
Yes, that's something I feel very strongly about, and thanks for asking. As we have talked about a little bit here today, police reform, to me, it's just something we have been doing, and the police have been around for more than 150 years, organized police work. Something we are doing is not working. And when you see a problem, you don't run away from it. You listen to your citizens. You bring the stakeholders to the table. And what are stakeholders? Well, you bring the police organization, the police chiefs organizations, the police employees, the police officers organizations. That's the fraternal order of police in most cases. You bring the citizens that are concerned, the leaders of that group. You bring the policymakers, and you say, okay, what can we do? And, you know, it's been tried in the past, and this happens too frequently with other pieces of important work that need to be done to progress our society through these problems. We get together, Adam, and we talk about lots of things, but we just can't quite agree on things. And that's where I think, you know, as a legislator, as a negotiator, something I did as a firefighter and I do as an attorney, you listen, and that's the most important thing you can do is listen. So through the protest, we are hearing the things that people legitimately want, legitimately think need to be done. We have seen some of these things work around the country in small ways, but perhaps they can be scaled up to be done on a national level. That can be done, but on a state level, we certainly are looking at some of those important things that they've been protesting. They have been peacefully, for the most part, protesting in the city of Louisville and throughout in other areas of Kentucky where they're saying something's not right. And I agree that something isn't right, police reform is needed, and I'm ready to get to work on it.
Thank you.
Hi.
Hi.
So, many things that make people sick are not the fault of bad health care. There are social factors like poverty, low-quality housing, etc. Should it be part of the healthcare system's job to address them? If so, how would you address these issues in healthcare?
Well, you are exactly right. They call those the social determinants of health. And there's another phrase, I'm losing it right now, but where these are the issues. These are really the underlying issues related to poor health care. It's poverty related. It is lack of information, lack of education. There are many ways in society that we look at that we can improve on those areas, and that will improve health care. And I do support almost all those programs. I can point to just this week, the Northern Kentucky Health District released a new report from Interact for Health talking about tobacco use and its really negative effects on Northern Kentucky, throughout the state, and Kentucky is one of the worst as far as some of the outcomes of use of tobacco products. And I sponsored a bill last session that would ban tobacco vape products. And, that has to do with what you're talking about, some of these social determinants of health. So if we were able to keep tobacco out of the hands and out of the mindsets of such an addictive drug as we do, we keep them away from the youth, they won't go on to become users of those products when they are older. And I think that the statistics I saw today said of people of, I didn't see the exact numbers of how they determine of the high income areas, they are in less than single digits in use of tobacco products. People that are in poverty, 51% use tobacco products. And that's not only in the state, and that's in the Northern Kentucky area. In my district, there are areas that are 38% smokers. The national average is 14%. The state of Kentucky's average is 24%. So that's just an example of some of the social determinants of health, the poverty, the lack of good housing, the low wages that we have, and I'm a supporter of raising the minimum wage. Those things can help improve those social determinants of health and improve our health, because we need a happy, healthy Kentucky.
Again, I think this question is very similar to the last question in that in my time working, again, as the executive director for small business development, it was very important for me to make sure that our youth were trained in secondary and post-secondary education programs. And that's why I'm so impressed by what we have here at Ignite Institute. I think this is the direction that Northern Kentucky needs to go in. This school offers training in pre-engineering, in nursing, in logistics, in manufacturing, in all types of, in a variety of fields. And as a direct result, the kids and young adults leaving this high school are going to be ready to make a decent living and add value to our local economy. And as a result of that, they will be able and capable of filling really good entry-level jobs. And I think that's where my skill comes in more than my opponents. I have direct experience working to create programs just like we have here at Ignite Institute. I was a high school counselor for over 3 years. I was executive director of small business development for over 3 years. I've worked with Gateway, the University of Kentucky, and other educational institutions to develop programs. And when elected, I will do the same for Northern Kentucky and District 65.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Thank you. Hope your foot gets better. Your foot, I think, is the issue.
Hello again.
Hello.
So my question this time is, the Washington Post claims that 7% of Black Lives Matter protests were violent, while 93% were entirely peaceful. But the 7% still costed more than $1 billion in damages. Do you think knowing this negatively impacts your view on the Black Lives Matter protests and movement?
No, I wouldn't say it negative. It's discouraging. First of all, you know, the freedom of speech and freedom of assembly obviously is within the Constitution. That's peaceful, freedom of speech and freedom of assembly. I use this example all the time. Freedom of speech is not absolute. You don't have it no matter what. If you're not aware of this, you can't go into a movie theater and yell fire. It's illegal. So that's where your speech is restricted in a certain sense. You can't protest, you can't assemble in the streets and cause damage, and that's where that makes that illegal. So while I'm discouraged and it's a bit disturbing to see that there's that much damage during protest, I wouldn't attest it all to the Black Lives Matter movement. Just because there is damage during a protest that is organized by Black Lives Matter does not mean that it was Black Lives Matter supporters doing the damage. And there is some anecdotal evidence that people actually come to these events just to cause problems, to stir things up. Now, I don't want to be a purveyor of mistruths myself, but the fact that it's, as you state, 97% and 93% not causing any damage and peaceful, and 7%, I think that that's a very difficult statistic to verify and to quantify. But I would still say that the Black Lives Matter movement is important as all peaceful demonstrations. And I have seen some demonstrators that I won't agree with their point of view, but when they do it peacefully and they're making their point, should be completely protected, and I support that too.
Anytime that you have protesters that, or as we call them, rioters that are causing damage to communities, it's not a good thing, especially when there are communities of small business owners who've built, who've put blood, sweat, and tears into opening and running successful businesses. So I am against rioting, but I am also 100% for peaceful protests. I think that is the thread of what America was built upon. America is a country where we have rights. We have the First Amendment right to speech. We have Second Amendment rights. And without that, we wouldn't be the country that we are today. And so regardless if you're red or if you're blue, if you're a Republican or if you're a Democrat, there are some things that our country was built upon. And one of those things is the freedom of speech, the freedom to peacefully gather and to stand for a cause. And I think our country has spoken on that issue. A lot of individuals have spoken, and they are upset with some of the social injustice things that have happened in our nation. But the question is not what has happened. The question is where we're going to go. And are you going to elect a candidate that has experience to bring you in the right direction, to lead us in the right direction. And I have that experience. I was a civil rights attorney. I still am a civil rights attorney. And I have the skill and the mannerisms to safely bring us in a direction together where we can accomplish the goal of social injustice, but also be respectful to the businesses and the communities that have already been built. And I think that's what sets me apart from my opponent, is the real life experience doing the work. I do think that there is some fake news out there, absolutely. But I think that as Americans, we have to be very particular about what we take in and what we consume and the media outlet that it's coming from. The onus can't always be on someone else. We have to take responsibility for our actions and what we're reading and what we're taking in. So I do believe that fake news is out there, but I also believe that we have to be diligent in our research. Take a half a day to read up on your candidates. Look at their bios, look at their websites. See if they are really talking about issues that matter to the community. See if their experience match what they say they're able to do. And so I don't think we're going to get rid of fake news anytime soon, but I also don't believe that it has to dominate our way of thinking. And I think as Americans, we are smart enough, we are capable of looking at things and making the right decision. Again, I think that that question, it starts and ends in Frankfurt. In my time playing football for the University of Kentucky under Coach Rich Brooks, he had a saying, and that saying was, you don't prepare to fail, but rather you fail to prepare. And I think a lot of the issues that are facing our region in District 65 are due to lack of preparation. If you look at our school system and you look at what Holmes High School, for instance, used to be, I think, and compared to what it is now, if you look at our transportation infrastructure problem that we have in Northern Kentucky, it's a big problem. It's the elephant in the room that no one wants to address. It's all due to a lack of preparation. And my opponent and his party have been in control of this district for the last 30 plus years. It's been 30 years of their leadership. So when we talk about accountability and failing to prepare, I think it's time to move in a different direction. There's so much potential for this region. There's so much potential for our students. Just look at what we have here at Ignite, right? There's so much potential for growth and for more educational and job opportunities and to make this place safer. But you have to have a leadership that's willing to step out and to make a difference and to and leadership with the experience of actually getting things done. So I ask, this is what I ask everyone that's viewing this to go to my website at davis4kentucky.com. That's Kentucky spelled out, davis4kentucky.com, and read my resume, read the things that I've done in the past, and you will be able to see that I have a history of getting things done in Frankfurt, and when it comes to an issue like healthcare, I will figure it out once elected and in office. And I wanted to thank everybody at Ignite for their time. It's been awesome being here and seeing you guys' facilities. You're doing amazing work, and hopefully, when elected, I can continue to support everything that you're doing.
Mr. Wheatley, on the behalf of the scholars at the Ignite Institute, as well as the members of our community, we would like to extend our appreciation to you for taking your time to join us here today. Your participation here allows for voters to better understand your platform, a vital aspect of the democratic process. Thank you.
Thank you, and I'll just close and say, and thank you again. This is an excellent exercise in democracy. We need access to voting, and we want you to encourage all your family and friends that voting is available now, and hopefully they will be out fulfilling their civic duty, and you guys certainly are doing your duties here, and I'm very appreciative of it, so thank you for having me.